Fear will be your greatest enemy. It lurks in the shadows of our minds, whispering doubts and insecurities, convincing us that we're not enough, that we'll fail, that we should just stay put where it feels safe, even when we know deep down that safety is a mirage. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you hesitated to pursue something you truly wanted? Maybe it was a job opportunity that seemed just out of reach, or a relationship that could have blossomed if only you'd taken that leap. Instead, we let fear dictate our choices, and in doing so, we hand over the reins of our lives to a phantom, a mere construct of our imagination. Fear is insidious. It often masquerades as logic, as caution, as reason. But let's be real. How many of our fears are based on reality? How many of us are genuinely in danger when we think about speaking up in a meeting or sharing our art with the world? Most of the time, the threats we perceive are just echoes of past experiences or the voices of others who have influenced our beliefs. We've all heard the stories of failure, of rejection, of embarrassment, and somehow they become our own narratives. We internalize them, and they fester. Think about that moment before you step on stage, or before you hit send on that email. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and suddenly, all those what-ifs flood your mind. What if they laugh? What if I stumble over my words? What if I'm just not good enough? It's paralyzing. And yet the irony is that the very act of facing that fear is often the catalyst for growth. It's like standing at the edge of a diving board, looking down at the water below. Sure, it's a long way down, but the moment you leap, it's exhilarating. You break through the surface of that fear, and suddenly, you're swimming in possibilities. But here's the kicker. Fear doesn't just hold us back. It can also distort our perception of reality. It can convince us that we're alone in our struggles, that everyone else is thriving while we're stuck in our own heads. It isolates us, makes us feel like we're the only ones who can't seem to get it together. And that's a dangerous place to be. When we allow fear to create that narrative, we forget that everyone else has their own battles, their own fears lurking just beneath the surface. So, how do we combat this formidable foe? First, we have to acknowledge it. We have to recognize when fear is speaking to us, when it's trying to pull us back into that comfort zone. Awareness is the first step in dismantling its power. Next, we need to challenge those fears. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? More often than not, the worst isn't as catastrophic as our minds make it out to be. And then, we need to take action, no matter how small. Each step forward, no matter how tiny, chips away at the walls fear has built around us. Imagine standing in front of your fears, looking them in the eye and saying, "You don't control me." That's where the magic happens. That's where we begin to reclaim our lives. Fear will always be there, lurking, but it doesn't have to be our greatest enemy. Instead, it can become a teacher, a guide that shows us where we need to grow. So let's not let fear dictate our narrative. Let's write our own stories, filled with courage, resilience, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. Because on the other side of fear lies everything we've ever wanted.